$1 million! Alright my guys, I got some Nightreign news for you this week. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the next From Software game that is set to release this week on PC. It's the next roguelike from Software. It's a cooperative focused multiplayer game that From Software is doing, although you can play solo. So let's get into this news. After 2 interviews with IGN with both Takuya Miyazawa and Junya Ishizaki, which are respectively the combat and game designer and the director. After both of these interviews, we got a lot more information on the game and a lot more speculation and analysis and breakdowns we can get through. So let's get right into this, shall we? Junya said they were told not to hold back on the game. That means the game is faster and they are trying to be a little bit more crazy with the difficulty in regards to combat action. Bosses will be more merciless and deal with a multiplayer scenario where they will try to deal area damage that will put everybody in danger, even though the boss might be focusing on another player. Game and combat designer Takuya said that the game is meant to be quicker, and they even said in the interview that Elden Ring was kinda slow. Personally, I think that Elden Ring was obviously one of the most fast-paced, if not the faster, From Software Souls-like game that I ever played, and that is like including Bloodborne. But definitely I can see the appeal of going for a little bit faster game, while trying to keep the same Souls-like formula, the original one, you know, from Software that we love, and we have played these mechanics that have evolved all of those years. And for example, they mentioned that there is no fall damage on Nightreign. So this is like a key difference to showcase how the game is much more focused on fast-paced action this time. So even though they are saying that the game will be a little bit more difficult, I think the boss will be a little more cunning. This game is more oriented, really focused on combat and like a fast-paced scenario. It's not like it's a single-player campaign game, you know, it's a different take. So obviously, even though they are saying they are going to increase the difficulty, I can see how this works, you know, they have more fast-paced combat. So overall, I think for From Software players, it will be the same difficulty we are all used, you know. We just get to play the game a little bit, get the hang of it, and I'm sure we will all feel at home. The design, as I have said, has been focused on multiplayer, especially 3-player, but wait, we will talk about 2 players in a second. But the main design and the main idea was designed around being a 3-player game, and that is basically, let's say, the expected standard experience from Elden Ring, but there's a solo mode available and there has been talks about doing duo mode, you know, so we go in pairs. Also, Director Junya talked about this 2-player option, and he said that is something that they ended up overlooking, having a gameplay between 2 players, you know. In the end, it seems that they are trying to make it happen. I don't know if we will have a 2-player option at launch, but it seems that real soon we will probably have a 2-player option releasing. I can't tell you guys for how long, but it really seems like they will release this 2-player mode for Elden Ring Nightreign game. And for those of you who don't know, Elden Ring is going to have a live action film that's going to be done by A24 Studios. I have seen a couple of A24 Studios movies. I like them a lot. All of them have been horror, psychological horror. So I don't see how that really fits with Elden Ring, because even though it's a game, obviously it has survival horror elements of that gaming genre. So From Software games, in the sense that sometimes you're trying to save resources and you are really afraid of dying, and the monsters and the atmosphere can contribute for you to feel that horror. So I can see how some elements of the Elden Ring series can be pretty well adapted by a psychological horror studio. Some other fantastical and action elements, you know, I don't know if they can adapt, because honestly, a fantastical medieval game like this, you know, usually requires a lot of investment that companies aren't usually into do. But let's see what piece of history they will try to grab from the movie and from the franchise, and what will they bring. I'm honestly curious, but I don't know if something good from this will come out or not. As we know, movies from games have a terrible history. Even when they are successful, movies that are done from games are still controversial. So we will have to see how this will go for Elden Ring's live action proposal. Great medieval fantasy movies, obviously, Lord of the Rings comes into mind, and all of these great movies, they always had a mix of computer graphics and practical effects. And I think that movies nowadays, they have abandoned a lot of practical effects, and I think that practical effects are essential if this Elden Ring movie is going to be successful, beautiful in its presentation and execution. Now we need to talk about Larian Studios. Yeah, Larian has accidentally changed its Twitter user handle to Divinity, and that had fans going crazy, thinking they were basically admitting that they were developing Divinity Original Sin 3. Which would be the sequel to Divinity Original Sin 2, the latest game from Larian Studios before they went on doing Baldur's Gate 3. And since Larian has already told everybody that they don't want to stick working with Wizards of the Coast, basically, but they said that they are done with Baldur's Gate 3, as far as I know. I don't know if there's a DLC coming, but they are pretty much done with the game. So there have been rumors that they are working on 2 games, 2 big RPGs. They say that they want to go big, and as we know, Larian, I love Larian, and for them to go big, that's it, my guys. I really want to see they go above and beyond. I mean, I'm only expecting they do something similar to Baldur's Gate 3 level of quality and depth, and immersion and engagement. That is enough for me. But if they want to go above and beyond, you go forward, Larian. If there is one company that I believe that can do it, it's them. But unfortunately, it seems they are not going to continue with the Divinity Original Sin sequel, and that's very sad. Larian, the director of publishing, Michael Dawes, has clarified to us that it was an accidental mistake and not a confirmation at all that Divinity Original Sin 3 is being developed or any kind of Divinity game on the franchise. Their own boss, Sven Vick, already told us that he is deep in the process of making their next game, and they are going for it. And even though Larian has been seeing a couple of trouble lately, it seems that their latest patch to the game has bring a couple of problems. They had a hotfix, but the hotfix had a little bit of issue, it seems, with the radio menu. Larian is still a studio that we all, or at least most gamers, trust on their next game. And these are great news, guys, because we had companies in the past saying that single-player RPG games have no place in the market, but successes like the ones from studios like Larian Studios and even fromsoftware, which is developing very multiplayer-oriented stuff right now, but they have been developing asynchronous multiplayer with Elden Ring stuff and Dark Souls franchise and all the other games like Sekiro. And so it's amazing that we have such news like this, because this means that there will always be enough space and market for single player oriented RPG games and even multiplayer ones that try to go a little bit beyond the curve, and we don't have to repeat every live service success in order to, chase the next trend. There is enough room for innovation in this industry, my guys. These are amazing news. And also lately, I need to talk about Randy Pitchford's response to a Twitter user when asked about Borderlands game, and he was begged. This Twitter user begged Randy Pitchford to actually have a chat about with the CEOs and the heads of 2K, and try to, or Take-Two, 2K or Take-Two, I can't remember which one released Borderlands, but to try and talk about the $80 price of release for Borderlands 4, and Randy had a horrible response about it. He had some poverty embellishment speech, like talking about when he was a kid and he had to save money to buy a video game, like a console, and it's like it was so out of touch. He could even not reply it at all, but he took on himself to go on and blab about it. Randy Pitchford has done it a lot of times, to just shout random nonsense when he could just shut his mouth, and he's hurting the reputation of his games once again. It's crazy. He didn't even had to reply. Since we are talking about Larian Studios, I also have to talk about this because Michael Dawes also criticized Randy Pitchford for his reply, you know. Dawes said that Randy implied that the game is more important than the cost of living day to day, like you have to make sacrifices on your day-to-day journey so you could even buy a game. And that's a completely dystopian take, if you ask me, and it seems that Michael Dawes agrees. That he understands that inflation is a process, a part of every company and every individual has to live in our modern society, but that doesn't justify a position where games are seen as something you have to trade off your day-to-day earnings, you know, to be able to afford a game, you know. When Dawes was asked what if Baldur's Gate costed $80 and the fans would be up to pay for it, he said even if we did, we wouldn't go on Twitter and tell people that they should save money and do something to just buy it, you know, as if they weren't real fans if they didn't do that. So completely out of touch reply from Randy Pitchford. As many of these executives, they are out of touch with not only their customers but the working force that they employ. This is just one of many of these crazy replies and responses that they do every day publicly on the internet. But that's it, my guys. These are the gaming news for you today. I hope you have enjoyed. Please leave a like, subscribe, and give me a feedback in the comments. I read them all and I try to improve every video, and I will see you on the next gaming news. Bye bye. Takuya Miyazawa.
We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?